All right, let's start on the roof. The pieces for the structure, you have this piece, which is the back of the roof. We have this piece, which is the front of the roof, and most of these I have pre-folded the tabs on. So your roof is going to go together something like this. I'll show you a little bit better, like that. So the side that has the tab on the bottom of this plain sheet is going to go toward the bottom, and the part without the tab is going to go at the top. This one has a tab at both sides, so that's going to go at the top and bottom. These are your side pieces, which I've already folded along the score lines. These are for the dormer windows. These are the structure pieces. I have one more over here. The only thing about when you fold the tabs on these structure pieces for the dormer windows, you want them to fold them up rather than down. So let's just show you real quick how these dormer windows are going to fit in. I also have these trim pieces over here. We'll get to those in a little while. All right, so the dormer windows fit in like this. You have this structure piece. I'm going to move this out of the way. Might be able to see better. And it looks something like this. And again, we folded the tabs upward. You can see that. And that's going to slide in here. At first, it might look like it's not going to fit, but because it fits in at an angle, take this top tab and fold it out, it's going to fit pretty much exactly in that hole. And it's going to stick out so that when your roof is tilted, it's going to be straight up and down. So that's going to be how it attaches to the roof, which is why we folded those up. It's because it's going to glue down to around the outside of these holes. Then you have this piece that I've already folded in the tabs, and that's going to fit in front of this, like so. So you can see how that's fitting together. And then we can add our trim pieces and everything else. So the question is, what order is the best to do things in? I'm not sure I have a really good answer for that, because sometimes you're playing with the roof and it makes it awkward if the dormers windows are there because you can't press down against a flat surface. I'm still going to put the dormer windows into the roof structure first, and then I'll slide this other roof piece over them. It'll be a tight fit, but it will work. So let's start by putting our dormers together. So the first thing I want to do is, once these are built, it will be really awkward to try to get our acetate in. So I want to put the acetate, go ahead and put the acetate on fairly early. If I put it on now, I won't be able to get my fingers in there. So I don't think I want to put it on yet. So let's take it out. Let's put these two pieces together. Okay? And form our dormer window there so that we get this part built. Then we can put on the acetate if we want to. Okay, so back to my gluing surface here. I'm going to put a little glue on the two top tabs and line it up here. I think of the entire house, the roof is probably the easiest to design and the toughest to build. right. And glue this tab. We're going to do all the windows the same way, so you get plenty of practice. Okay, so now we have this piece together. Now we can do one of two things. We can go ahead and put it in here and then put the acetate in, or we can put the acetate in and put this in. I'm going to wait to put the acetate in and go ahead and glue this into the side of our roof. Again, it's only because the less I have to glue around acetate, the less likely I am to mess it up. So this is going to fit in like this. The front is going to look like this, and when it's tilted, it'll be straight up and down. Okay, so fold these in and put some glue on. Bring this up. And this is where it gets a little tricky, because you want to make sure that you get this all the way up so that it's nice and flush. Okay. And then we're going to do the other sides, two sides and the bottom. The bottom's always the tricky part because it doesn't seem like it should fit. You want to make sure that it lines up to that score line, and it's sometimes difficult to see. So I would work on the bottom first, and then the sides over here and over here. Bottom doesn't bend a whole lot. It's almost flush, but not. I mean, it's almost straight, but not quite, because it's really the slant of the roof there. So once you get it there, you can go ahead and tighten things up. Okay. So we're going to repeat that for each of these dormer windows. All right, let's just keep building these. Again, the easiest thing is to start at the top. Line it up. So that it connects right at the very top. If this part lines up, the rest of it goes together much easier. If this is off very much, it doesn't fit perfectly. By the way, I noticed that the trim pieces over here seem to be missing the score lines on these edges over here. If that's the case, it's a bug in the program. I'll try to fix it someday. But meanwhile, you can just fold it right over this piece here because it's going to be the trim piece over the back of your house. So you can just fold it over and just fold along the two score lines like that. Kind of create your own fold. So this one's second one is made. Let's make the third one. I need to get more paper. This pandemic has cut short my ability to go into the craft stores and pick up paper whenever I want. I could order online, but I haven't done too much of that. I like to catch the sales, but I haven't been able to go out because of the pandemic. Got vaccinated and everything, but vaccines don't work so good for me, so I am hoping that it all goes away soon. Meanwhile, I'm paper crafting with whatever paper I have, which may explain why I'm doing all of this nice beige color, because I have lots of that color and it's easy to get. So I'll put these in those two places. I know I said this was hard. It's not really, really hard. It's just a little bit cumbersome at times. It's a little more complex to put together, not just a box. Chuck these tabs to the inside. And as before, I'm going to attach the bottom one first. For some reason, that always gives me the most problem. And I'll do these two side pieces. Since we haven't put our roof together, it's a little easier. We can put it back down flat on the table and seal these. And I'll show you a little trick for the acetate when we get there. That in, it's going to fit in there like that. Some glue on this, the two top tabs, push it into place. Glue that down good. Now, with the bottom one. Right along the score line. Oop. Be careful with nails because they just ripped right along my score line there. That's not good, but since I did, I'm going to put a little piece of tape there since the score line ripped and I really don't want to have that issue going on. Scotch tape is useful in crafting. Just put it down like that, and you should be fixed. Okay, now the two side tabs that I missed. I don't think that's happened to me before, to cut right through the tabs. Push it in, make sure it's flush against the hole. All right, so those are in. That's probably the hardest part. The next thing we need to do is put our back on. So, along this long piece of the roof here, the roof structure. I'll put this on. We're going to be putting the decorative pieces on soon. For this tutorial, I did not emboss or specially print the shingles. There's a lot of ways you can handle shingles. You can print something that looks like shingles and use that. You can use lots and lots of little cuts in the paper to simulate a shingle effect, or you can paste on shingles afterwards. All right. So that's going to fit, the side piece will fit in here like so. So we're going to put in the side piece next. Okay, so next, putting this side panels on. I guess you can lay this flat, nothing's sticking out, so it'll be easier. Get one side attached flat anyway. And then we'll do the other side as well. One side, just make sure you choose the right side of your triangle here. If you have a roof that's a particular slant, it might look very close to the same. Let's see where my score lines were. Lining it up. Nice. So yeah, I think you could cut shingles for this if you decide to get creative. Right now I'm just using a plain brown paper. I don't have any way to emboss it that would look good. I thought about using my brick embosser, but then I realized that it was going the wrong direction, and I wouldn't be able to do that. Not with the little embosser that I have. I have one of the Design Boutique or something like that. If there were a lot of embossing folders that were a larger size, I'd be tempted to get a different embosser. But it doesn't seem like that's the case. I think so much of the embossing is designed for doing card making that it doesn't always work out. So now I've got my two sides on. You see my roof is pretty well done. Okay, and we still have our trim pieces. We still have our bottom. And remember, I decided to go with the open bottom for making it easier to glue. And seems to be a little loose over here. And also it will let the light come all the way up into our attic area. Again, if you were doing this dollhouse style where you wanted solid floors, there are different ways to do that. just keep in mind that at that point you'd need to find ways to be able to pull your house apart or leave the back open for access. And we might do that too, but for right now, I'm just going to glue everything together. What I'm thinking is I may choose to hinge the house at the roof level. So that it can be opened up to access the lighting. There are ways to do that, and I may also put sort of a collar on here that can fit in to be able to open it up. These are all design considerations. And if I decide to do that, I'll add to the videos that I have so that you can see what I do. Okay, I am not doing a great job on this. I think getting large amounts of areas glued sometimes is counterproductive. Smaller areas, if you can get by with it, are better. And back to this. You know, there are crafters online that do these wonderful videos where everything works the first time beautifully. I'm not one of those people. You can see me struggle too. Make mistakes and the rest of it. Okay, let's see. How are we doing over here? A little bit open over here. Let's add a bit of glue in here. Make sure we're all nice and flush here. Okay. That looks pretty good. All right, so this is our roof. I know we've got our dormer windows in there. And I said I would use a little trick about the acetate. We have our trim pieces here. They might be either a contrasting color, or maybe you'd prefer to have dark wood all around. That's just a personal choice. I think I'm going to use the light ones just because I think it'll look a little bit better. I cut both in case I wasn't sure, but I'm probably going to use the light ones. So before I do that, I want to put on my roof back here. You have to slide everything in here and get it to fit. Okay. Okay, so this is how we're going to put this would be the shingles if we had a shingles pattern on it. So I'm going to glue down this roof over here. And then we're going to take the back side of our roof and glue that on. If you have highly contrasting colors, like I do with the roof and the structure, You might want to consider inking. Along the edges, the top edge of the roof where you have these corners, so it doesn't show through if you don't have a perfect seam. This will look fine, but it's going to show a little bit. I actually recommend making your roof structure and your roof shingles the same, base them on the same color. If you do that, then you won't have any problem at all. But again, I have lots of vanilla color, so I decided to use it for this demonstration. Okay, let's put on our trim pieces for our sides of our roof. So I wrote the roof extension, of course, using a lot of my husband's routines, and got a lot of help from him. So I wrote the roof routines because when I wanted to build a house with dormer windows, I would stare at somebody else's house and I could not figure out how to do it. So I played around lots and lots and lots with math, and math is hard. If any of you are mathematicians, I'm not one of you. All right. These pieces are our trim pieces that just fold right over. And they're going to be the same color as our shingles in my case. I guess it could be a different color, but it really is a roof going on here. So we're going to go ahead and glue those on. And again, if they're missing some score lines, just fold it around. If there are too many score lines along these pieces and you try to do like a cut shingles, they really get in the way. So we limit the number of score lines that are in the middle of these pieces and just have a peak score line to provide alignment. It also has the advantage that if you don't have it really, really tight, you don't have to worry about, is the bend going to meet up with the bottom? This way, you bend it and it's where you want it. For those of you who work with Cricut machines, I cut this house both on a Cameo and on my Cricut. I did some pieces on the Cameo, some on the Cricut. I have an Explorer Air 2 and a Cameo 4. And if you're on a Cricut, you want to double check when you bring those SVGs into your design space that they're the right size. It's really easy to find out that you had the wrong size. Okay, and here's our last trim piece. Now we haven't put on the front trim pieces and we haven't put on the acetate. We will get to that. Just showing you hopefully how this all fits on. I'll push it back as far as it'll go. Okay, so now we've just about finished with our roof. Just about. Okay, the last thing to do is take our acetate pieces and glue them to the back side of these trim pieces. So to do that, put a little bit of glue around the outside, or this is actually the wrong side of the paper. And with hopefully glue-free fingers, push this into place. Now you're going to have to be better at this than I am to completely avoid getting any glue muck on your acetate, but it'll come pretty close. This method seems to work okay. This is also when it's important to have some kind of a gluing surface like I have. And the reason is that if I have any glue that overlaps, when I turn it over and push it, it won't stick to the surface. And our last one. I wasn't sure whether to do the top dormers with blue or not, and I decided it just might look a little bit strange against the dark roof. I will defer to other people's opinions, but when you're doing your cutting, well, just cut the color of paper that you like, not the one that I'm using necessarily. Okay, and then these will fit right in. I don't have any cross pieces on these. Clearly, you could have added them in the design if you wanted to. All right, now just put a few more drops of glue in here. Carefully spread it outwards, again, so you don't want to have it coming on, showing on the acetate windows. And then slide it into place. Like that. Can't even really see, but let's see if I can get the light to reflect on it. There we go. All right, and we're just going to glue on these other two pieces. Again, on the back side, just a little bit of glue around the edges. Thin it outward. So that it doesn't ooze. Slide it in here. This also helps cover up any like warping that might have happened when you're putting in the dormer windows. And our last one. Okay, so now our roof is complete. We can start taking a look at how our house is progressing. It's getting a little bit harder to hold everything in place because we haven't glued anything down yet. We haven't decided where we're going to glue and where we're not, but you can see our house is starting to take shape. There's with the foundation. Yeah, you get the idea.